We all know the consequences of brandishing a real firearm, but what happens when someone pulls a fake gun on the police? From a man wielding a weapon for fun in the dead of night to a culprit pretending to intimidate officers with a handgun, here are 5 instances when foolish men tried to play it smart with a fake gun. On March 11th, 2021, around 6:15 p.m., the Laguna Beach Police Department received a call about a stolen Mercedes from the Balboa Bay Resort parking garage. Word spread, and about 18 minutes later, Officer Ryan Radel caught the stolen vehicle driving southbound recklessly. Behind the wheel was Steinmetz going crazy on the gas pedal. With public safety in mind, Officer Radel wisely chose to wait for a safer spot before attempting to pull Steinmetz over. However, as he exited his police car and approached Steinmetz's vehicle, the culprit caught the officer by surprise by flooring the gas pedal, making a daring escape. A high-speed police chase ensued as Steinmetz sped through traffic and collided with other vehicles. Fortunately, the officers on his tail managed to finally stop him with the help of a well-timed spike strip and by performing the intervention technique, pit maneuver. With nowhere to go, Steinmetz stepped out of the vehicle. However, what he did next escalated the situation. He reached for his waistband and lunged towards the officers. From where they were standing, it almost looked like Steinmetz was armed. Realizing the danger everyone was in, Officer Radel fired 6 rounds without wasting any seconds, hitting Steinmetz 3 times.
Driver, get down on the ground! Get down on the ground now! Get down on the ground now!
However, Steinmetz continued to march forward, showing no signs of backing down despite his injuries. And as the tension reached its boiling point, the officers realized something important. Steinmetz was not armed. He was only pretending to hold a firearm. And so the officers on the scene abandoned their hesitation and used no lethal force to bring down Steinmetz. Following the incident, Steinmetz was rushed to Mission Hospital, Mission Viejo for medical treatment. Fortunately, he survived his injuries. But not everyone is lucky enough to walk away alive from a high-tense situation like this. On September 28, 2015, at 1:15 a.m., the San Diego Police Department was called to action when Alberto Hernandez dialed 911 and talked about wanting to shoot a woman before swiftly hanging up. Alarmed by the disturbing call, Officer Jeffrey McCoy, Officer Jonathan Wells, and Officer Brandon Lull made their way to the apartment in the 1100th block of West San Ysidro Boulevard. However, what happened next changed the course of the night. Hernandez greeted the officers with what looked like a semi-automatic handgun before quickly slamming the door shut.
Hey, put the gun down.
The presence of the firearm escalated the situation. Reinforcements were called and the authorities proceeded to evacuate the neighboring apartments. Once the perimeter was secured, officers attempted to negotiate with Hernandez, who emerged from the apartment still holding the gun. Despite repeated commands to drop the weapon, Hernandez ignored the warnings and descended the stairs towards the officers.
I can't tell the...
As the distance between Hernandez and the officers reduced, the officers in blue made the split-second decision to strike down Hernandez to prevent any loss of life. In the aftermath of the incident, Hernandez was rushed to the hospital to treat his injuries. Unfortunately, fate didn't seem on his side as he lost a battle of life. Investigators later discovered that Hernandez was not actually armed with a real firearm, but was wielding a replica of a semi-automatic handgun. Surprisingly, this kind of thing happens more often than you might think. On Thursday, May 19th, 2022, at around 11:22 a.m., chaos erupted in Fresno, California when the Central Policing District received a disturbing call from a concerned mother. Her 27-year-old son, Austin Flores, was parading around in her backyard in violation of his restraining order. The 911 operator calmly noted down the address and dispatched officers to the scene. However, while the suspect's mother waited for the authorities to arrive, the situation took a dangerous turn. Austin had brandished a weapon. You can hear the fear in her voice as she explains the situation to the authorities.
Give you an update.
Okay.
He just came out of the side of the house and he brandished a gun he had on his waistband. He brandished a gun. He said, if they come for me, I'm ready for them. It's a fake one? Okay, my mother's saying it's a fake. I think it's a fake one. He has, to my knowledge, he has no bullets. I saw a fake one on dirt.
Okay, what did it look like?
Though the mother thought that the gun was a fake gun initially, she quickly took her words back.
But you think now it was a toy?
I don't know, officer. I don't trust my son.
So what did it look like?
It looked big, black.
Thanks to the mother's update, the officer arrived on the scene ready for a shootout with a canine. They secured the perimeter and proceeded to call out Austin, who was hauled up in the vehicle inside the house. However, Austin refused to budge. The police spent several minutes trying to coax him out, but it was clear that the situation was not going anywhere.
Fresno Police Department, show me your hands!
Mom, back out.
Show me your hands! Fresno Police Department, show me your hands!
And so, the police officers thought of a different strategy. One officer used the side gate and entered the back lawn, hoping to catch Austin by surprise, and guess what happened next? The officer's smart formation paid off as Austin was struck down while trying to escape by the officer in the back.
2 Baker 10 to Hutchins, watch to us, to the west, watch to the west.
Following the incident, Austin, who had sustained multiple gunshot wounds, was transported to the hospital. Unfortunately, he succumbed to his injuries. To add to the tragedy, the investigators discovered that the mom's hunch was right all along, and Austin was in fact holding a replica gun. Fortunately, not everyone with a fake gun ends up going to their grave, thanks to the swiftness of the officers on the next scene. On Friday, September 29th, 2023, the flow of the peaceful night was disrupted at around 3:45 a.m. from a Lakeville police officer when 45-year-old Timothy Hladek decided to act too brave for his own good. Timothy approached the police car in the dead of night. Though at first the officer didn't think much of it, his demeanor quickly shifted when Timothy brandished a weapon. Realizing the danger that he was in, the officer quickly exited his vehicle and sought cover while asking Timothy to drop the weapon. However, Timothy refused to back down. He continued approaching the officer with a gun in hand, with an air of nonchalance around him. The two kept going around in circles until an off-duty Massachusetts state trooper who was passing by stopped to lend the officer a hand. Now it was 2 against 1. Still, Timothy showed no sign of backing down. Instead, he boldly paraded out into the middle of the road and proceeded to raise his weapon. A fatal mistake, because both officers seized a critical moment and opened fire at the suspect, incapacitating him. Officers approached Timothy cautiously, only to find a replica gun in his hand. He was later transported to St. Luke's Hospital in New Bradford for medical treatment. Once discharged, he was charged with 2 counts of assault and battery for the trouble he stirred up. In our final case, the man with the fake gun had too much to smoke and paid the ultimate price for fooling around. On January 2nd, 2023, Sergeant Hamilton from the Bath Township Police Department was performing his duties when he received a call about a domestic disturbance at 16400 South Upton Road in Bath Township at 1:46 p.m. The officer arrived at the scene only to catch the suspect walking around in the street. The suspect's mom stepped out of the unit shortly after and alerted the officer about how everyone was in trouble. From her demeanor, it looks as if her son had done this one too many times. Unfortunately, the conversation was cut short as the man stepped out of the house to yell profanities at his neighbor and the police officer.
No, you're not. If you're saying that...
Oh, you can leave her the she ain't doing you motherfucker.
Okay.
Get out of
Let me
here.
just go back.
No one needs
Why?
you
What's
here.
going on?
Once he stepped back inside, the suspect's mom, who looked done with the situation, told the police officer that she wanted a medical evaluation. In the midst of working out the details with the officer, the man stepped out once again, this time with a gun in hand. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. Sergeant Hamilton armed himself and asked the man to drop the weapon. However, the suspect, who was as high as a kite, paid no heed to the repeated warning and instead proceeded to point the weapon in the direction of the officer and his mom. It was clear that he wasn't going to back down, so Sergeant Hamilton took charge of the situation and fired 10 shots at the suspect, effectively neutralizing the threat.
No! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! 2 shots fired.
Soon after, more officers arrived at the scene and tried to revive him. However, it was too late. And just like before, the investigators found replica guns this time as well. If you think this is the dumbest people can act, wait until you watch our next video.